Welcome to Midlife Women Entrepreneurs, where you'll find real stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts you need for entrepreneurship. If you've ever felt like midlife was too late to launch a business, write a book, or chase a dream, think again. I'm Lynette Turner, your host, and I'm bringing you inspiring conversations and practical tips to help nudge you forward and keep growing in midlife. So let's jump in. Well, I have Charity Brown with me today here on Midlife Women Entrepreneurs. Charity, welcome to the podcast. So I'm excited to have you here today because a lot of your journey, I think, really sort of paralleled my journey, being a single mom and, kind of working on yourself and doing some work around the visioning side of things. And so you were just so relatable. And I can't wait for you to share your story and also to share some very helpful tips to any of the listeners out there. Charity, I'm going to hand the floor over to you. Give yourself a bit of an intro and we'll take it from there.
All right. Thank you for that, Lynette. And I'm so excited to be here, you guys. I'm really hoping that we can share some amazing insights. And I'll start off with me, I guess. I'm a solopreneur, a serial entrepreneur. I've been having my own businesses, restaurants, lottery facilities, salons for the last 25 years. I'm a mom and I have a business and a brand called Create Clarity with Charity. And it helps moms, women, and executives help find their way through the landmines and business challenges that we all run into. It's also a mentorship club, and we have the Happy CEO.
So let's actually just jump right into the Happy CEO. So how did it get started? What is it?
Yeah, so we're relaunching the Happy CEO, which we launched about 4 years ago during COVID. And it is like a accelerator scale program essentially for business owners, solopreneurs, and people that want to make like money online, marketing and branding their business. It is endorsed by Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. And he really loves the investor pitch side of the program. But the main framework of it is the 4Ps framework. So power, planning, positioning, and profits. And we have like some really hot rod tools from the Clarity AI network, which helps build ultra fast funnels, scale businesses online effortlessly with automations and tools and things like that. But the key one is the first P, power. So that's the one I really think is the cornerstone and the foundation of success, is really believing in yourself, having the vision of success, really dialing into the fundamentals of how you're going to get there and the action items that you need to take to do so, and the team and the tools.
So, okay, so this is like kind of like an online community where I would join the program and you would take me through these 4Ps in a very sort of, I guess, systematic way. You talk about power being the first piece, being, very, I guess that is more laying the foundational elements of it, or?
Yeah, the vision of success, I think, for an entrepreneur after, owning several businesses, different types of business, having many wins, but several failures as well, not having clarity on the vision of success, what that looks like for me, how am I feeling, what am I making, who is with me, including that joy factor instead of just burning the midnight oil and then ending in burnout.
Right, right. And then, okay, so how did this all sort of come to play? I mean, on our pre-call, you talked a lot about, being a single mom at a very young age. You had to drop out of school. Talk a little bit about your climb into, becoming a CEO of the Happy CEO.
Yes. So I was a very unhappy CEO for a very long time, let's say. With my businesses, having employees is a whole different ball game than, having an agency online where you can subcontract. It's much easier. I prefer that now, but I went through the gauntlet of suffering through being a CEO and having to sacrifice my own happiness and my own well-being for my business. And not only that, being a mom and having my daughter while I'm going to school, getting my degrees and running my restaurant, it was just, way too much for anybody. But I had a lot to prove because of like earlier failures in life. So I always felt like I had to do more and that I was never enough and that I had to continue doing everything I could to just prove myself to people. So once I finally got over like, okay, I'm done needing to prove myself. I have a triple degree. I have several businesses. I'm a great mom. I have a good relationship with my daughter. I'm done trying to prove myself anymore because I always felt like that I was happy with myself, but I wasn't if I didn't feel like the external validation wasn't coming in. So I went through a lot of turmoil, internally trying to people please and please everybody and, kind of sacrifice my own happiness and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what was that moment? I think about, when you're talking about that, it just reminds me of just sort of reinvention, right? And so, and almost sort of choosing yourself. On our pre-call, you talked a lot about, spend 20 years giving from an empty cup. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of midlife women out there right now who have been doing that have spent most of their sort of adult life really giving from this empty cup because that's what we did. We
Yeah.
helped other people. So what did it mean to choose yourself?
My gosh, so much work because there was so much, I had a midlife crisis, I really broke and I pretty much had like the most incredible amount of pain and depression and loss and just self-pity and, you know, all the things that just hold us down and make us feel like we're not enough and we're not good enough and that we failed and that that's just what it is. After selling my restaurants and moving to Portland, I got a corporate job instead of running my businesses. I really felt like I failed my staff, my team, my investors, people, because I was there for 7 years and we were making money, but I was pretty much robbing Peter to pay Paul the entire time because the industry is so cutthroat and it's such a fine margin that it's really hard to make a profit or even pay yourself, which is the thing, like paying yourself is the last thing on the list. So you kind of
Yeah.
get used to like getting stuck in the back of the bus. Like last priority is yourself, including, self care, sleep, all these other things. And so it's like, one of those things when I moved to Portland and I sold my restaurants, I thought, okay, I'm going to do much better. I'm going to have a corporate job. I'm going to get weekends off. I'm going to get a salary. I'm going to have retirement. It's going to be great. So it's kind of like I go and I think that this life is going to be so much better for me. And then it was not. And it was just all, chaos and madness and, trying to living paycheck to paycheck and working extra hours and feeling undervalued and not getting paid what I was worth and like just constant, like this feeling of self-defeat essentially.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
was just like, beside myself because I knew that I knew how to, live a successful life. But I have failed myself because look at what I've done. I've put myself in a position where, I couldn't enjoy life. I was 100 pounds overweight. I was suffering from two back herniated discs from the weight. I was miserable. I was
Right.
absolutely like just dying inside. And I was like, what have I done? And this is when I was like 37, 35, I think is when I moved to Portland. And that was 12 years ago.
Right.
So this, I have a decade of feeling much better now. But I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No.
was deep in it and I had to use mentors and coaches and these frameworks like the 4 Ps, like the number one power within yourself to be able to see yourself getting out of that situation, how you're going to do it, and what you're going to be doing when you're triumphant, standing on that mountaintop. I win. I didn't settle. I didn't stay stuck, and
Right.
so that's the thing is remotivating and getting in alignment with your true desires.
And so that full-time job became a set of handcuffs, it sort of sounds like
To say
for
the
you.
least. Yeah, I was in the box
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I was like yeah, it was still the restaurant business, which was crazy. So it was 20
Uh-huh.
restaurants. It was a franchise. And so I was thinking I'd be really good at this since I already had 15 restaurant clients and own my own restaurant. I'm like, okay, I can now make a salary and not have to worry about profits and just help them open more restaurants. I'm really good
Yeah.
at that. Yeah, it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It was more like jail or something.
Exactly. That's interesting because I think often when we start a business, we do fear, how am I going to make ends meet. And so that's why I think so many of us stay in our 9 to 5 jobs
Mm.
because it feels safer. But it might feel safer, but like you sort of alluded, it became a prison almost, you weren't happy. And now you're doing even probably more work, more burnt out, and you're just making money for somebody else, kind of.
Yeah, and that was so disappointing for me, and there's not a lot of gratitude in corporate. I mean, some are great, like, I have some amazing corporate clients that really love their employees and do a lot for them, but it's like, my experience was not that. And I always
Hmm.
prided, myself and how I treated my staff. And we would go on, rafting trips and have parties and celebrate their birthdays and acknowledge their wins. And, like I'm still friends with a lot of the people that worked in my restaurants because they loved me as a boss. They loved my establishment that we created together. And I didn't get any of that when I went to corporate
Hmm.
restaurants. There was a lot is more bottom line, people are numbers, cutting heads, you know, KPIs, profit margins. We don't care. We're going to backdoor someone tomorrow. Like,
Yeah.
and they hired me to help them do it. And I'm like, I hate this.
So, okay. So then like most businesses that start, it's because you solved a problem for yourself. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, this isn't working for me. How did clarity with charity come into play? And then how did you spawn the Happy CEO?
Yeah. So Create Clarity with Charity was the name of my first book
Okay.
that I wrote during COVID. I'm like, I got to get this out because I know there's more people that feel this way and that I don't want them to suffer any longer. And it's because I got real clarity. So, like when I was going through that and I had to have the 2 back surgeries and I had a hemilaminectomy and a discectomy and I lost 100 pounds, and I was like on workers' comp so I could isolate. And I hired a coach, a mentor to help me out and to help me get back to who I was, who I knew was still in there, but was just so depressed and repressed and, just wallowing because I did lose like my best friend, my grandparents who raised me, like everyone passed away all within 3 years. So I was also battling so much depression and just the failure with work. And so I had to get clear again. And I had to really see myself pulling out or it was all done for
Hmm.
me. And I want to stick around for my
Hmm.
daughter. I was
Yeah.
using all the pain medication they were giving me. So that's when I gained all the weight and like all the steroids and everything. And like I just ballooned because I was sitting in the office all the time and I was eating all the pizza all the time. So it was like, and it was
Stress eating,
a stress
really. I
eating.
mean, we all do it. I mean, I do it. I know I catch myself. I'm like, why am I eating like this? It's like, oh, I know why. Cause I'm feeling stressed out, So
Yeah, it
yeah,
helped. So I just had to stop stress eating, stop drinking so much, get off the pills, get off your butt and get
yeah.
back to work. And that's when I decided I was going to lose the 100 pounds and I hired a coach and I joined consulting.com with Sam Evans, who was my first mentor out of corporate who helped me build Now Answer Group, who produces the Create Clarity with Charity podcast and the books. So he helped me
Hmm.
build my company and my vision and restored my belief in myself with these frameworks and tools that I've learned from multiple mentors, like my mentor and coach, Alan Knight, who's a former Zen monk. He was there for me while I was healing. He also helped me with the Zen Zone mindset certification, which I bake into the Happy CEO. And that's part of step 1.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. So you talked about the 4 P's of the Happy CEO program: power, planning, positioning, and profits. Take us through that. You mentioned it earlier that power is the most essential step. It's the first step. It's the essential step. Let's break it down. What does power mean?
This is the idea that, you get a mental picture and you get really clear in your head being successful and you see yourself standing there successful triumphantly holding the money bag or on the top of the mountain or in your fancy car in your nice house or your executive office, whatever that vision is. And you just see it. You close your eyes and you clear your forehead with like a white frame, kind of like Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches.
Yeah.
He says, just to clear the palette, to clear your head and just see like a white wall or something and just picture a TV screen showing you standing there laughing, triumphant, happy. What are you doing? Who are you with? How much are you making? How'd you get there? Like, what's next? And like literally see yourself in your own movie. You're the
Right.
star and
Right.
you're the success and you won. So what does that look like? And what would you be doing if you could be doing anything, and how would you be making money if you could be doing it however you wanted? And getting super, super clear on that vision. And so that's just one little piece of power, but it's a huge one to start catapulting you because your subconscious mind thinks that's real and will start
Right.
manifesting that for you if you really keep doing that and you keep seeing yourself in that corporate executive office, running your own business, your own firm, and there's your secretary and your partners and your clients are walking in and you see yourself on the TV at your last event and you're just like, I win, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of because that key to it is once you can see it yourself, you'll believe it too. And a lot of times when we set goals and we're thinking, okay, I'm going to write that, we're like, yeah, right. This is like not realistic. Or you get a dream board, you have $50 million and Bentley and a mansion over here, right? Like that's not that. It could happen, yes, but like realistically, you might be telling yourself it's BS.
Right. Well, and I was going to just ask you that. So, I mean, I do a lot of visioning myself. I write all my vision statements, my stories. Like it's sort of like, what do I desire? And how do I plan on getting it? Like, what am I going to give to the world to get it? What are my timelines? But sometimes it gets hard to, I guess, like really see myself in that new identity. When you're taking the people that are in the Happy CEO program through this first stage, do you find that people find it really hard to really see themselves in that new identity?
Yeah, always is. So that's why it's inner fitness. It's like going to the gym. You have to keep doing it and seeing it and
Yeah.
working that muscle. You got to do it all the time, every day. When you're feeling challenged, just think, oh man, if 2 months I'm going to be in Fiji on the island, I'm going to be
Yeah.
making 100K a month. Like just keep doing it. It's not like a one and done. Like you, right? Like, cause you kind of have to ingrain it into your
Right.
subconscious.
And
Yeah.
so there's different ways of doing that, ingraining into the subconscious, right? So walk us through what you do, what your program encourages people to do.
Yeah. So the inner fitness part of the power is really putting yourself first and choosing you. So number one, you have to be ready to step into your next level, your next best self, and that you're committing to yourself, that you're ready. Because a lot of times people get into programs and they're not ready for it.
I love what you just said there. I really did spark a aha because I believe that too. Like, but how do you know you're ready? Right.
But it is talking about those valley lows and the mountain highs. That what is say keeping you stuck? Are you aware of it? Are you ready to change that? You kind of find the gap and the pain point and then the solution. And then you give them that vision of, okay, well, what if, you know, you can fix that and you mend that gap and you start scaling, then how does that feel? And if you don't, then what is it going to cost you? So
Right.
you kind of have to paint the vision and the picture of them being the happy CEO as if what are the stumbling blocks that are holding you back, that are keeping you stuck in your
Mhm.
business? Usually it
That
always
just
starts with the person.
exactly. And so we, on our pre-call, we brought up this word mundane. It might have been the word of the month for me or something like that. But what are, in your mind, what are the subtle signs of a woman that is falling into this mundane trap? And what would be her first way out of it so that she can confidently go into your program?
Yeah. Because there's inner fitness work you can do first, which is super
Right.
key. And that would be identifying on self inventory. So that's one thing I always ask my clients to do. Get real with yourself, which is hard and people don't like to, but that you have to if you want to scale and change and innovate. There's a lot of things that keep people stuck. So self inventory and going through and finding out, okay, where am I in these key areas? Health, wealth, relationships, communication, and really look at, okay, I could be a 10 here, but I'm a 4. This is definitely affecting my success. Okay, well,
Mhm.
what would life look like if it was a 10? And like
Right.
start envisioning that and start building that self-belief in yourself first by getting real, then seeing the areas that you can change and shift and then start holding yourself accountable to, I'm changing this. I want to get to the gym. I don't want to feel like I'm unhealthy anymore. I'm going to stop smoking, or I'm going to, like these are things that keep people in that same mad cycle, which is
Mhm.
complacency and staying in the mundane, because it's so much easier just to stay stuck, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I think about when you were talking there was like just dipping your toe might feel risky because they're so used to a life that they're already in. And so that risk factor might sort of take into play. But I like what you're saying is like take an inventory of the key areas of your life, you're saying, and, rank them from 1 to 10. How are you feeling about this? From 1 to 10, how are you feeling about that? And then, like you said, maybe even just take one of those areas and say, okay, if it was a 10, what would that look like, sound like, feel like, all that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, I like it. You talked about joy as being a real core part of your framework. And so why do you think joy is not just a nice to have, but an actual strategy for growth and clarity?
Yeah. Joy's the power. There's so
Okay.
much power in joy, because if we're putting joyful activities into our life that may be mundane, that may be stressful, that may, not be so fun, but then you purposely schedule joyful activities, going to yoga, going out for walks, hanging out with your friends, going out for cocktails, having some fun, joyful dancing in the morning when just putting that into your day will shift the entire energy. And I always recommend doing the power hours, what I call it. And you have like an hour or two for yourself where you look at your goals, you reflect, you do some joyful activity, whether it's dancing while you're brushing your teeth or getting out walking the dogs, painting or singing or something that elevates your energy, and then get out and get moving and taking action on your actionable goals. And knowing that it's like strategizing your own success.
Now that's still kind of the philosophy inside of the power piece, or is that sort of moving across planning, positioning, and then obviously into
No, we're still in
profits?
power.
Power.
Yeah.
Wow. So a lot of
Power
work and
for
power, a lot of work
lots
and
of
power.
work and power.
So then the planning, positioning, and profits, that then you're, what are you now? You're shifting a little bit more into, okay, planning how, what do you want to do? Do I actually have to have a business before I join the Happy
No,
CEO?
oh no, you have an idea, or you have a trade or a skill or your degree, or you can easily monetize that online. So that's what
Right.
we help people do, or have a business that they already are making 6 or 7 figures and they're at a stuck positioning. So we reposition and help scale, but we can do that literally from the ground up because the fundamentals in business are all the same. The planning is literally the magic formula. So we use some really hot rod tools where we go into your investor pitch, your 60-second elevator pitch. We help you master your voice and be able to communicate it clearly. And then also know what the problem is we're solving, where your market space is, your sales channels. We get really dialed into the numbers because I'm a numbers girl,
Yeah,
Numbers
that's good.
speak, and they're maps. They're literally the map to success. If you know how to read your numbers, and 5 things is all you need to know. You don't need an accounting degree. You don't need to go back to college or anything. It's literally just knowing where it is on your financial statements and being able to measure it by doing two or three things. So we help people get those tools, and also the ones that it takes to get funding. So the whole pitch that they get, they can take to the bank. They can take to an investor. They can take to their partners. They can report it to a board. Like the level of stuff, the tools that we use that puts it all together makes it in a really nice package.
Yeah. When you're talking there, I was just thinking like, so somebody's just kind of in the starting phase. They join your program, they go through all of the power stage, and then they get into the planning. I think earlier you were talking a little bit about like, you want to have, you want to be the billionaire, you want to have the Bentley, but do you position it in a way that they grow into that, or is that the target right from the very get?
Yeah, no. So that's just the self belief and seeing them successful using this business that they have that we're about to
Mhm.
scale. So yeah, they need to see the vision, because that's the point, is like, okay, when you're successful within this business and in your life, what is it that you're doing? So it's kind of like getting them ready. Okay, now let's go do that. And
Right.
how are we going to do that? And put it into an actionable plan that holds the business owner accountable. And you can literally start from a blank slate and be like, I've been in HR for 25 years and I could make $300 an hour consulting, because I worked in manufacturing HR, so I can just target and I would help them go from that self brand, set up their sites, get their bank accounts and all their merchant service and pay channels and everything gets all set up, their website. That's the positioning.
And then obviously the big stuff that comes in, which is the profits. So, when I think about like building success and like the myth of having it all, how do you think is that a myth, or do you think we can have it all?
Oh, yeah, but that means a different thing to everybody. Like having it all to
Yeah,
me could be like barefoot on the beach with my, palapa house and my mango trees, but someone else would think that's poverty.
right.
Right? But having
Yeah,
it all, like, what is having it all to you? And that's what needs to be clear because a lot of times we're living our lives on other people's terms and what they see us as a success. And we think, if I'm that because they want me to be that, I'll be successful. But then you find yourself miserable there, and that
yeah,
happens. So that's the key about getting really true and do the inner work and find out, but what is it for me?
yeah.
What does that look like? Because yeah, I was lost for a long time. Like I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up when I was in high school. I went to beauty school,
Right.
right? And I dropped out.
Yeah.
I was like, peace, bro, I'm out. Like I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
care.
exactly.
I was like, but that was ultimate failure. People looked at me
Right.
as a failure because I did that. But I was so happy that I was in beauty school and that I had my own little salon before I was even 19.
Right.
But it was hard,
Yeah.
and I had a hard knock because I didn't know anything about business then. They don't teach you that. Beauty school.
So that's interesting. I love what you're saying there about success, because I often feel like we could get into this comparison trap. And so therefore, you're building, 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 but you're never feeling like you're achieving or getting good enough at it because you're comparing yourself to somebody else. Actually, I have a couple of questions here. What would you say to a woman that's listening and she feels like maybe it's a little too late to start a business,
Yeah.
even though she has this, I'll use your example from, she's been in HR for, 20, 30 years, either been furloughed or let go from her job. She's now in her mid 50s. She can't, it's going to be very difficult to find another full-time gig, or what we'll call the golden handcuff gig. So now she wants to step out, but feels she's a little bit too late. Then she starts to go out there and she starts to see other people who are in this field, and they're a little bit younger. They feel a little bit more successful. So you could get in a real trap of feeling this comparison trap. What would you
Oh,
say to
yeah.
that woman?
Oh, wow. And those are my favorite clients because I was her. We can battle a lot of negative self-talk and negative ego. So I think for one, it's a mind shift about how she sees herself and that painting that picture of her because we are what we create. Like she could be like, I have all the experience. All these newbies, they might be cute and young, but I really know how to make sure someone doesn't have a lawsuit and end up slipping and falling and how to deal with all these different claims. Like her knowledge is worth way more than looks or age. And to see herself as an expert and actually as somebody who can help businesses and not just look cute doing it. Right. So I think I would tell her that that is absolutely ridiculous and that she is probably positioned to be one of the ones that could scale the fastest, that she'll definitely hit the $250,000 mark in that industry and in that, level if she positions herself and brands herself and knows her numbers and commits. And like, I would say, yeah, you need to start now.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so who is the happy CEO within you? And I ask this question because let's say I finish your program, I'm in your program, I'm done. Who am I? How do I describe myself? How am I leading? How am I living my life differently? How am I loving than the past versions of me?
Yeah. Well, you are the happy CEO. So one, you're a happy CEO when you graduate my program. You're a happy CEO for life and you have lifetime access to the school group and you have an amazing community that supports you. And they're all also doing the power inner fitness activities and are mindful and thoughtful and heart-centered leaders and leading with heart brain coherence and really being into helping people solve problems along with creating wealth and abundance for yourself.
Right. Amazing. Charity, we are going to wrap it up, but I've got one last question for you. And that would be, if there was one thing that you would hope that somebody got from this podcast, what would it be?
Yeah, more self-belief in themselves to be successful and to be a happy CEO and to choose you, that they
Right.
step into their power. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. All right, Charity, where do people find you?
Yes, you can find me at charitybrown.biz, and that's on Instagram. That's also my website, and that's my YouTube channel. And you can find the Create Clarity with Charity podcast on all the podcast channels, Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Awesome. And you had sort of mentioned, I think there was some free resources on your website, correct?
Yeah, tons.
Yeah.
Yeah, my website, charitybrown.biz, is a free resource hub for people that are looking for another podcast or download my free books. Can download Ignite, the Limitless Success and Living Boldly for free. We just ask for your
Okay.
email because we like to keep in touch.
Yeah, that's great. All right, Charity, you've been a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing your story and thank you for sharing your insights. I'm sure there was a ton of value that people are grabbing from this podcast right now. So thank you again.
Thank
Hey, it's
you.
Lynette. Thanks for listening today. Please like and subscribe. And if there's somebody out there that you think could benefit from the episode, give it a share. Midlife is your time, so go get it.